Get ready. Why is my thing not working again?
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everyone, and welcome to This Week in Sports with Mac, Jack, and Jim Jeffcoat. We'll be covering the biggest sports news this week with three guests that come in every Sunday. We got Keith Engle, Robert Butler, and the Philly sports guy. So how you doing today, guys?
Doing well. How about yourself? Happy Sunday.
I'm doing as well as I was 5 minutes ago when we were chatting.
Jack, they don't see us chatting off camera. I don't know how many times I got to tell you that. So we're going to say hi to everybody.
I don't know. I mean, with the technical difficulties, you've had us going live before the show starts. You've jumped the gun. You've been offside, Mac, a lot of times with this show.
I'm very.
Jack got that new contract. He's gotten even more vocal.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. So let's start off with the biggest news of the week, the NBA draft. Wembanyama selected first. A quick question for you guys: can he carry the San Antonio Spurs into the playoffs in his first year?
No, and I think he's going to be a good player. It's going to be hard for him to be a great player. I don't think he can. Now he would have to play like Kevin Durant as opposed to a true post player, which most people that are that tall are post players. He can't be a post player because of his size, but he does have some athleticism, and he could be a good player, but I don't think he carries them into the playoffs.
Jack?
It's his first year. Allow him to physically develop. Who cares whether San Antonio gets into the playoffs? What would be the big deal if they went to the playoffs, got bumped early in the first round? As long as he's showing serious development, trending towards being something special. I mean, it's rare that a rookie's going to come in and take over immediately, be one of the best players in the league. He's just got to trend in the right direction. That's all they want. And Coach Pop at San Antonio, they're going to move Wembanyama along very slowly. They're not going to allow him to get beat up because of the physicality of the NBA players. It would be like throwing them to the wolves, expecting them to carry San Antonio.
And also you got to remember, he did not play in the top league in France. He was not in the top league. So that's a flag to me. That's a red flag. And I'm not saying the kid's not talented because you see him, but he's playing against grown men in the NBA.
Well, I mean, if
he's playing against grown men, but there's never been anyone like him, 7'4", 7'5", who could dribble like that. They could have him playing the guard position at times. That's how good he is.
Jack,
he's a pure shooter from the outside as well.
Yeah, but here's what you got to understand. Yes, he can dribble and he can do some things, but he's playing against a different kind of talent in the NBA as opposed to France. He's never seen anything. And yeah, they said he went over to Las Vegas and played against some of the G League guys, but this is not the G League. I mean, this is the real deal. And they're going to, I mean, last year they had the kid from Gonzaga who was number one. Good morning, Rick. The last year, and he was supposed to be the same type of player. He's 7'4", and he hurt himself for the Thunder. These guys, it's tough on him. He's not going to be dribbling out there. You see, Durant doesn't really dribble. He's a shooter because of the height.
Let me ask you this, Jim. What would you settle for if he would be on a level of Luka, the next Luka? Would you settle for that right now, or are you willing to gamble that he'd be better than Luka?
I would settle for
You would settle on the next Luka right now.
Yeah. But Luka's what, 6'7", 6'8", right?
Well, I forget Luka's height, being as good as Luka, the same level player. Are you willing to gamble that he'd be great? Because I'd be willing to gamble that he's a generational talent.
See, I'm not, because he'd have to be closer to Kevin Durant than anybody else because of his measurements, his dimensions of his size would have to be a Durant because Durant is not a post player. He's a
Well, good morning to Keith Engle. Glad that you stopped in, Keith. We weren't ignoring you, but you didn't come in during a fight, which is good.
I didn't come in, Jack, talking about Aaron Hicks and how stupid I am for not wanting him.
No, you didn't come into that either. So,
hey, he hit a homer yesterday, Aaron Hicks.
And good morning to you guys too, by the way.
Yes. So Keith here, he brings us our updates on the Yankees, Knicks, and Pats, the Patriots. So let's get into it, Keith. First, I'm going to start off with, of course, the Yankees. And we're going to do good and bad because, we always talk about bad things with the Yankees, right? We're normally downers on the Yankees. They're no good. They're hurt. So let's do some good things, and we'll throw a couple bad things in there. The first of the good news, of course, Yankees are still in first place with all their injuries, with all their problems. They're third. They're still in third place, though, Keith.
Yeah.
Which means that they still have a shot at the title at the end of the year.
Yes, again, but we're looking at Judge being out now an extended period of time, which you're worried about in the beginning. I had some erroneous reports I'd heard Friday that there was some good news, and obviously the news that came out the last couple of days was worse.
Right.
And nobody's stepping up here. I mean, what have they scored? 2 runs in the last 3 runs in the last 2 games. This lineup is, and I'm going negative. I shouldn't do that. Yes, they're still in first place in the wild card chase, but there's 7 teams going to be involved in this chase, and right now they're probably at best maybe the 6th the best of those teams, at least on paper.
Let me ask you guys a question. Can you ever remember when a team was as affected by losing one position player, not a pitcher, one position player, as the Yankees have been losing Aaron Judge for this period of time? I can't recall an instant when a team has been as greatly affected as the Yankees have been.
Yeah, I can't either. It's not just it is an effect of him not being there, but it's also an effect of every other player just not stepping up. Basically, everybody not stepping up except the kids. McKinney's played well, Bauer's played better recently, and they play hard. I like the way they approach the game, right? But everybody else is just coming.
Where is Aaron Hicks when you need him? They get rid of him. He goes to Baltimore. He's a regular. He's a regular there, key contributor.
Once again, he didn't do it in New York. I have no reason to think he would be contributing right now.
He did it in New York. That's why he got a 7-year contract by doing it in New York.
Well, we're going to get off. We argued about Hicks enough already. Another good thing, the Yankees are linked to potential trade for Cubs slugger Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
Left fielder. Got some power, of course, left from the left side. It shouldn't take a massive haul of players, but it wouldn't be cheap, Keith.
No, I think. Well, I wouldn't think it would be that expensive either. I mean, he's had a bit of a bounce back year. He's been down a little since he came back from. He was out for a month, and he's been down a little bit, but he's had a pretty good bounce back year. I mean, his OPS is like 1,200, and his overall numbers would be much better without missing a month. Now, you got to remember the 2 years prior to this have been just atrocious out in L.A., but his defense, I think, would be good in Yankee Stadium in left field. He can play some center field if he has to, obviously. He could play first base if he had to. And if it didn't cost too much, I'm not giving up much for Cody Bellinger, but I think he would be a good fit on this team if he plays like he has most of this year for sure.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Yankees, even if they make the playoff, are they going to be a 1 series and done, or can they extend it?
Again, if Judge is knocked back, I would say, they're 1 and done, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, they're not getting to the playoffs if Judge doesn't get back.
Yeah,
but Judge probably will be back at some point.
A torn ligament in your toe
can't be good. It's got to be hard to heal.
And they said it's indefinite when he comes. So we don't know how serious it is. And he is a big guy. Was he 6'8"?
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, look, I know we've been talking about it's only a toe, but I knew it had to be something more serious, or this guy'd be out there toughing it out. But
yeah, and if it's the big toe, I mean, that's really
Well, I imagine Keith, the closer it gets, and if they need him to play, he'll go out there, he'll play.
he'll give it a shot, but he might have to. He might have to DH too. We don't know, to take
and
some.
he might have to take pain shots in there.
Yeah,
that's some serious stuff, right?
And then you end up doing damage to other parts of your body.
That's my point.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's an interesting situation, and it's going to be very hard for them to get an influx of energy. Yes, Cody Bellinger will help this team. Is he going to replace Aaron Judge? No, because if Cody Bellinger comes in here tomorrow, if these other guys don't start hitting, it's not going to matter who comes in here. I mean, they have to start scoring runs.
Well, if you think about it, we'll have McKinney in right, left-handed power. Then we'll have Bellinger in left if he plays left with some. Well, he probably will. Bauer will probably play center with some left-handed power. So we start along with Rizzo. I mean, we start adding a little left-handed power to the team.
It's better than what it is now. And you're right. The fact that he's left-handed also is another benefit that I had.
It is always a better.
Yeah.
McKinney hits a home run yesterday, the only run of the game, and Mac's ready to make him a full-timer. Just give him an outfield position. Give him a spot, Max says. I mean,
I wouldn't. Listen, if I had a team that I expected to have on there, I would not say that at all. But right now, he's earned the right to play every day because he's playing better than anybody else that you want to mention on his team.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing really good baseball.
It's temporary, like the help wanted ads in the newspaper. A temporary job. That's what McKinney, is doing right now in reality.
Well, that's fine until he isn't doing the job. Again, there's nobody else. There's nobody else you can tell me should be playing over him right now. Nobody. If Judge,
Aaron Hicks.
Slightly off topic, but still New York. Is
we get a mute button when Aaron Hicks gets brought up just to automatically mutes the conversation.
Is the Mets manager in trouble, Keith? What do you think?
Right now, no. And I think if Billy Epler stays the GM, he won't be in trouble next year either. But the word is that Steve Cohen's out chasing Stearns, the former Brewers GM, who he wanted to bring in here before he brought Epler in. If he replaces Epler with Stearns, then all bets are off because he's going to want his own guy.
Yeah.
Potentially, then Buck could be in trouble. He's not going to get fired this season, Mac. I don't see that happening. I do see the Mets potentially, there could be some kind of fire sale here, though, if this continues. They've already started.
It is pretty disappointing. It is pretty disappointing.
Speaking of the Mets, last year, Jeff McNeil won the batting title. But while the season was going on, Francisco Lindor said, the same Francisco Lindor who signed a $341 million contract, said if McNeil wins the batting title, he's going to buy him a car. Lindor's yet to make good on that promise. Does that do anything within the clubhouse if really your highest paid player made a promise to get one of the other players a car if he accomplished something and hasn't come through? Jim, you could answer that. What does that do in the clubhouse?
I've never been promised a car, so I would know.
Whoa. You're saying that if someone said if you got 10 sacks in a season, they would buy you a car, the highest paid player, and then they don't get you the car and it wouldn't bother you at all? It wouldn't bother any of the other guys? That the highest paid player didn't
I don't think it would, Jack, but you never know.
Aren't these the same two guys who got in an argument in a fight in the tunnel over whether something was a raccoon or a rat, for crying out loud?
Oh, my goodness. So maybe it would bother them if they're arguing with raccoons and rats. So it depends if they were playing in New York, right?
I might have my animals mixed up. But
so back to the Yankee, and Bauer made a terrific throw to home last night, by the way.
Yeah.
Bauer's humble path, and he feels like he belongs with the Yankees. He's a good center fielder. His batting's got he's got to hit the ball better, and I think he will. What's your thoughts on Bauer?
Oh, he's a good story. I mean, he's bounced around a lot in the minor leagues and a couple stops in the major leagues. He does have to prove his batting average, but he's contributed in a lot of other ways as well. I mean, his OPS is pretty good. His defense is pretty good, as you said the other day. He made a nice play. So he contributes. He brings some energy to the lineup. I'd like to see him hitting more than 219, but again, he's a nice piece. He's not a guy. Again, similar to McKinney, who, if all things were perfect, no, he wouldn't be a regular, but he's a guy who can contribute off the bench, which the Yankees haven't had guys contributing off the bench in a while, especially in the outfield. So he's a nice piece. No matter what happens the rest of this year, I think you'll see him around. Him
Keith,
or McKinney. Or McKinney.
Keith, do you think the Yankees regret not signing Andrew Benintendi when he became a free agent? The White Sox gave him a 5-year deal. The Yankees wanted to stop at 4. If the Yankees could have a do-over, should they have given him the 5th year?
I'm not sure. It's not like he's tearing the cover off the ball in Chicago either, because
he's not doing badly. He's not doing badly either.
I don't believe he got a home run. He might have hit one since I last looked, but I don't. Last time
he's playing good defense. He was hitting in the 260s last I saw.
He's a good player, and I did want him to get re-signed. And total forthrightness, I wanted him to get re-signed. I liked him. I thought he fit well with the team, and that's assuming again Bader and Judge would be healthy along with him. Problem is he can't carry a team. Maybe he'd be getting on base, but who'd be driving him in right now? Again, the problem is it's not one guy. You can't say let's bring one guy in here unless it's Aaron Judge
fix the problem
and fix this problem until these other guys. DJ and Rizzo and Stanton, the guys who need to step up right now, start stepping up.
But if you look at the Yankee everyday lineup, some of the guys are definitely back next year. Rizzo's back next year as first base. Gleyber Torres probably is the second baseman. Volpe's the shortstop.
That's what I was going to ask.
Judge is obviously, in the outfield, as is Harrison Bader. And Giancarlo Stanton's back because they can't do anything with his contract and he has a few years left. And what's happened to Giancarlo Stanton?
Since he's come back, he's been awful. He's always been a streaky player anyway, but I mean, this streak is lasting way too long. And again, it couldn't come at a worse time. It's a time that they need him to step up and earn his money. And you talked about Volpe too. This team was willing to go through the ups and downs with Volpe all this year because they felt they could carry him with the rest of the lineup playing well, and it wouldn't matter if he hit 200. And as long as he played decent defense, contributed elsewhere, like he did with stolen bases early in the year. If they want to stay in this race and these guys aren't going to start stepping up, the Yankees are going to have to think about what they're going to do with Volpe going forward because they can't carry him with the rest of this lineup stinking the way that it does.
Well, let's turn to the Knicks, Keith. Derrick Rose's option was declined. He'll become unrestricted free agent. What do you think of that? I mean, Derrick Rose really didn't play at all last year.
No surprise. After midseason, he didn't play any meaningful minutes, and most of the nights he was, coach's decision not to play, and that's not a big shock that he went. And they weren't going to bring him back at any price, I don't believe. So. Great. He did well with the Knicks while he was there, showed some great leadership, and but that time's passed now.
Yeah. How about Josh Hart? They're extending his option deadline.
I think that's good news because I don't see there isn't a lot of upside for him to do this. He's better off hitting the market. But so I think this is good news that he wants to be back here, and maybe he'll get a bit of a hometown discount perhaps. But I think it's got to be good news.
People talk about all the deals the Knicks should make. I don't see any wiggle room. I mean, who are they going to really trade unless it's a blockbuster type deal involving R.J. Barrett, who they don't want to deal?
No, the only deals we've heard mentioned, they were in heavy on Beal. I don't know who they were thinking about bringing up or trading in that move. But the problem with a Beal or even Paul George, these guys are making $40 and $50 million the next couple of years. You're really tying your salary cap. If
you got 3 guys, with the Suns.
Yeah,
that have that
over 40, right? Yeah.
The question I was going to ask you is the Celtics. Why do you trade for Porzingis?
When he's healthy, he's really a good weapon, but
You said the big kid when he's healthy.
He's not healthy enough. I agree.
There's a guy that's what 7'5", 7'4".
He's like
And that's what I'm saying about the kid that went Wembley.
Yeah.
First, these are the issues you have with guys, and he's a lean kid. He's bigger than Wembley.
Yeah, he's had feet problem. He's had knee problem. He's had all kinds of back problems. He's had every kind of issue.
He's been on 3 teams. This is his 4th team.
And chemistry wise, when you're replacing Smart with him, I don't think that's good for the Celtics. Smart was a guy, he's the leader of that team, and I think it's going to affect them in ways they don't even realize.
Exactly.
People don't talk about how much that deal is going to help the Memphis Grizzlies. Basically, they're replacing Dylan Brooks with Marcus Smart, who's a better player than Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
And that's going to take the Memphis Grizzlies up just a little notch, and they won't have Dylan Brooks' immaturity anymore. They'll have the maturity of Marcus Smart.
But here's an interesting thing: is you got 2 defensive players of the year, in Jaren Jackson and Marcus Smart, on the same team.
Nice.
It's interesting too that Marcus Smart, when he came in the league, he had a reputation for being a bit immature, and he's changed a lot over the course of the last 3-4 years. He's become a leader. I think he will help the Grizzlies in a lot of ways that you guys have already mentioned. And when John Morant gets back, he'll help him, I think, too, as far as maybe.
Let me ask you this question on that subject you just brought up: is who's going to be the scorer in those 25 games when Morant is gone? They don't have a scorer.
They're going to have to spread it around. Marcus Smart will learn to score it a little more, I guess, for 20.
So historically, they've played very well when Jay Morant's been out. They just have to keep doing what they're doing. They have the formula. They played better without him than with him. Yeah,
they'll survive the 25 games, I'm sure. And I think they will. And Marcus Smart will help that happen. I think he's a way underrated player.
Keith, back to the Knicks, okay? That's what you're here. Okay. Knicks. There's talk that Knicks may swap Randall for Zion Williams.
Not doing it.
Nah.
New Orleans isn't doing it.
Not doing it. Well, good. Thank you. Because I don't want him here. There's too much baggage here. First of all, another guy who can't stand the court.
There you go.
He can't. What good is
you get Zion, you become a champion, a serious championship contender. He is a great player.
Great. I don't think Zion Williams works hard enough. He is not a worker.
Yeah.
With that size, he could dominate physically, but
absolutely
he cannot do the things necessary to make him. And you can say all you want about the other kid, but he is worried. He just got it. He was really injured.
Yeah. And this isn't 1 year.
Wait. Jim said, let me just call Jim out on this. Jim said Zion Williamson doesn't work hard enough. How do you become the number 1 overall pick in the draft if you don't work hard?
Pure talent.
Yep.
I wasn't pure talent. I mean,
the guy is physically impressive. He is. Zion Williams was, but how many over his career, he's never had a full season of playing.
Well, he's been hurt.
Not even in college. Not even in college.
That's true too. I mean, that was the big knock against Shaq for a couple of years, if you remember.
Look, I'm okay trading. I'm okay trading Randall in the right trade, Mac. But not
Randall. I like Randall.
But not for Zion Williams.
I like Randall.
Well, you trade Randall in that deal, that allows you to play Obi Toppin more.
If Randall's healthy, Randall's
Toppin
can help you.
Toppin and Quickly. Toppin and Quickly both were not traded during the draft, which says that they're probably going to be playing a lot more minutes for the Knicks this year.
I would think so. And they brought in Toppin's brother, too. So, I mean,
really?
Yeah, they signed him the other day. So I don't know whether he'll make the team or not, but I don't think that's a move.
Here's something that's interesting in the draft. And we're talking about the draft, is you got 3 of the guys that were up for Player of the Year. The kid Timmy, the kid at Connecticut, and there was one more, but they all didn't get drafted. They were undrafted, and they were all centers.
All centers. Well, Timmy was a senior, but they aren't. The center position has changed. Well, the basketball in general's changed. There's no positions anymore for guys, right? And
exactly.
They're more
5 out.
Yeah, they're more traditional centers, and that position's they got scooped right up. Somebody's probably. I like Timmy especially in the NBA. I think he'll be.
Yeah.
I think he'll be a good player.
He
won't
probably
be a
did he go to Miami? Because if he go to
Oh.
Miami,
I think he signed with the Sixers. I think didn't he?
Yeah.
Where did he sign? Sixers signed 3 guys right after the draft. Let me find out real quick, but because you can talk to the sports guy about the Philly sports guy about that. But
Wembanyama was of course a big story, but I thought a bigger story was the Thompson twins both being drafted.
5 and 2 brothers, twins, where they were twins.
Yeah.
You know what I think the big story is? 5 of the first 6 players didn't play college basketball. That's a huge story. And seniors, I'm not sure 5 seniors got drafted in the 2 rounds.
I think ultimately the biggest story coming out of the NBA draft is going to be in the 2 and 3 slot, when the pressure is going to be actually on Charlotte drafting Brandon Miller. If he doesn't pan out as well as Scoot Henderson, there's going to be a lot of second guessing over the years. And especially if Brandon Miller has any off the court issues going forward, it could turn out to be a disastrous pick or
I
a great
understand
pick
what you're
for Charlotte.
saying, Jack, but Miller is a small forward. Henderson, Scoot Henderson is a point guard. They had not Carmelo Anthony, but the Melo Ball. So they would have had 2 points. Big time.
Melo Ball's expendable, though. He's not a long-term solution.
I think.
I mean, a lot of. I'm Melo, but no, I don't mean that. I'm thinking of his brother. My apologies on that.
Yeah.
I'm completely wrong on that point. But
They
Melo
already
Ball
had
is
an
more of a
interesting-
shooter. He's more of a shooter. He can play shooting guard very easily.
Well, we mentioned the three player 3-team trade, and let's get into that a little bit. Korzinga is now a Celtic. Smart, of course, he's with Memphis, and Tyus Jones, he's also part of the trade. I think he went to the Wizards. I think all 3 make the teams better. A lot of people are down on Korzinga. I'm not. It gives them a presence under the basket for rebounds, and it gives them another 3-point shooter. I mean, who else gives them that kind of presence that gave him that kind of presence last year?
If he's healthy, I don't disagree, but not at the expense of Marcus Smart. That's my point.
That's it. And can he play the Celtics tempo of ball? That's the question you got to ask, right?
That's a good question, yeah. And by the way, I don't know the Celtics need more 3-point shooters. I mean,
that's my point.
They need some guys who can play inside.
Of course, you
signed Jaylen Brown to a max deal. If you're the Celtics, do you let him walk? I don't sign him to a max deal.
Right now, I sign him
just
to
like
a max
I don't
deal
sign
because
James
you're gonna need
Harden.
him.
I'm not a big Jaylen Brown fan.
Jaylen Brown going into last season was neck and neck with Jason Tatum on the A side of the team. Now it's 1 and 1A, and he's the 1A Jaylen Brown. And
I still take
to
him.
show you the way his stock has just slipped enough.
And I agree with you, but I
don't
still
pay him as a superstar as far as I'm concerned.
Because I tell you why. Because the other kid has the elbow injury, and they don't know when he's going to be healthy.
Jim, do you take Brown over Smart?
I don't. Because you got.
I wouldn't either. I would have traded Brown sooner than Smart.
Yep, absolutely.
Me too. The second trade was Paul George going to Golden State. Poole Young. I mean, yeah.
You mean
I'm saying it wrong.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul.
For Poole.
Yeah, Chris Paul went to Golden State, and Poole went to the Lakers. Am I saying
Washington.
Right. Wizards. Sorry. Is Poole the better pickup because of he's young?
Yes.
He still's got more years.
The upside, I would agree. Paul is going to be 39 years old this year.
I do not know what the Warriors are thinking about bringing in Chris Paul to that group.
And I heard that
for one season, it's good.
What he do last year?
Yep.
Well, he was hurt, part of the year.
Jack, you don't seem to think being at a court matters.
They're trying to run it back. No. I'm saying next season they want to bring back Draymond Green. Whether they move on from Klay Thompson or not, to me, that's the big story as far as Golden State goes, because he spent his whole career with Golden State. There's a good chance the Warriors might retire Klay Thompson's number at the end of his career. Do they move on from him or not? I got to believe they're going to give him some type of offer. They're not just going to release him or move on, but they've made it clear they want Draymond Green back. They haven't made it clear as far as Klay Thompson is gone. But if they run it back with the same exact team and add in Chris Paul, Golden State is a threat to, regain the NBA title.
They better have another plan if they're playing and to bring somebody else in if they're going to move on from Thompson, because then you basically have given up Poole and Thompson for Chris Paul, and that's not a good trade. Sorry.
I would agree.
So.
There's the man that's going to fill us in with the inside.
Hey, Keith.
Hey.
Good morning, Robert.
My man, Robert. I'm going to check out here, guys.
All right, Keith. It's always good.
Have a good Sunday. Bye-bye.
Take care. Check out Keith Engle on TGI Sports Talk when you get a chance. But right now we got Robert on, our big story breaker and maker. Robert, give us your thoughts on the NBA draft and Wembanyama.
I mean, it seems top heavy with Wembley. Scoot Henderson's got a lot of buzz the last few weeks. I thought he was going to go number 2 forever. He ends up going to Portland. And, of course, Brandon Miller, very talented wing, ends up actually going number 2. And we know about the issues going back to Alabama, which apparently not to seem any issue for Charlotte. But, after those 3, it's pretty much a crapshoot. But you got to look at guys like Giannis, the MVP, the one MVP, Joker, 41st overall. We just don't know until a few years from now, guys.
Yeah, that's true. I asked Jim and Jack this. I didn't pose it this way. How long before Wembanyama brings San Antonio to the big game?
I would say 3 to 4 years. And a lot of people realize this. This is, it's a young team. He's a fairly young player. I'm saying 3 to 4 years. Within 7, I would think you're thinking championship run. 3 to 4, I'm thinking, playoffs, mid kind of season. Greg Popovich signed a 3-year extension.
Yeah. But here's the thing I have to ask you, Robert, is how many players of that height have been really dominant in the NBA?
Well, at 7'5", but I don't think any's moved like this. I mean, I've watched a lot of his stuff. He's really quick.
He did not play in the top league in France, and you're going to tell me this kid is going to jump into the NBA and dominate it? And I know you said
no, it's not going to dominate off the bat.
Not
what he's eventually going to become, that's what Rob is saying. What he's eventually
I
going to
understand
become.
that.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, Porzingis is 7'4", 7'5", and you see the issues he has staying healthy.
Yeah, I don't think he ever got this kind of height.
Porzingis went, I think, 4th overall in the draft, so you can't compare.
4th, and that's only one.
Yeah.
I'm not a kid, but he's gonna have to be closer to Kevin Durant than a true post player.
Well, you asked what guy dominated. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did. He dominated right off the bat when he came in. So I mean, that's a player that was that tall. What was he? 7'4"?
He also had 4 years of college too.
That's true.
That's why I say
and
3 to 4 years. It's. Jay, what is the guy's name? Jay Billis. He said this guy's a 6'2" guard and a 7'5" body.
Yeah.
He's quick, Jim. I mean, I don't know. You may be right, man.
Interesting. I hope you're right. I just think there's issues with how you play this guy, and maybe Popovich will figure it out. But there's some issues on how you play because this is unusual for a guy to come in the league like this.
I brought this up. I think it was yesterday. Is Wembanyama mean enough to make it in the NBA? I mean, he's a nice kid. He seems like a real nice kid. And you got players like Michael Jordan, who was fierce. You got, LeBron, who was kind of mean. I mean, he's a real nice kid. And
that's the points I'm making. Does he have the mentality? Because they're gonna come after him every night. Hey, it ain't gonna be like nice and hey, I'm gonna let you shoot. They're gonna try to knock the mess out of him.
Well, Giannis is soft-spoken, guys, and the Joker, he looks like a fun guy. I mean, but but
the Joker's got that kind of
he's got some dog in him.
Joker's got a mean.
Got a little bit of you don't never know about the Joker because remember when Morris hit him and what he did after that, and he came back and punched him in the back.
Oh, I didn't see. I saw him dunk on Anthony Davis in the playoffs. So
so Joker.
Wembanyama. Let me tell you what his big problem is going to be. San Antonio doesn't have many good players, so they're going to be able to double team him, harass him. It's going to be hard to have someone have his back on that team until the team gets better and they have better players to free him up. That's why San Antonio drafted another French player, on a rival team. So Wembanyama could have a certain comfort, someone he was familiar with, even though that player wasn't on the same team. He was in the same league. They're going to gear all their resources around him. And you couldn't get a better coach than Coach Pop, who's going to move him along very slowly, protect them. Everyone's going to be patient because they know what they have.
We'll see. And I'm not knocking the kid. I think he's unique. And he is a unique player. But I just wonder, can he take the physicality? And just like Max said, there are going to be guys that are going to be rough. Can you imagine playing against a guy like Karl Anthony Towns? He's going to try to beat him up.
Well, he had dinner with Tim Duncan and David Roberts. I mean, they're working with him, Jim.
Yeah, I know.
Tim Duncan's got 5 rings.
Yeah, but Tim Duncan was only 6'11", and Robinson was what, 7'1"?
Yeah, he stands out over all of them. I saw a picture yesterday.
Yeah,
definitely. Hey, Robert, soccer. We don't talk about soccer a lot on this show. 4 players, 2 U.S., 2 Mexicans suspended after a fight or brawl or what? Do you know what happened with that?
Well, I think that from what I hear and read about that game is the United States looked so superior to Mexico. Mexico fires their coach. It was more of an embarrassment thing. They were showing some pride, and they got into a fight, and there were suspensions involved there. So it's a kudos to the U.S. men's soccer team. They look legit nowadays, and I'm not even a soccer fan. That's just what I'm hearing and reading about how far they came, and the idea that Mexico, they fired the coach. He's only been there 4 months.
That's pretty quick. Wow.
They're serious about that soccer in South America.
Yeah, they are. Jack's boy, Aaron Rodgers, is trying he's saying that psychedelic drugs is improving his game. So no trainer, you don't have to have a special diet, just take them shrooms. What do you think, Robert?
He spoke at a conference in Denver, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I would go. It's probably legal with the L, not illegal, but it doesn't look good for Rodgers. I think he should credit. He's always been told he couldn't. He told a story on Joe Rogan's show about his professor at Cal said, this lady tells him to his face, "You're never going to make it. You're going to get hurt. You're not going to make the NFL. You need to find a realistic goal." He was a transferred community college guy, transferred to Cal, not picked number 1. I think that's that desire to get ahead and prove people. He's 6'2" frame. He's not a 6'4", 6'5" guy. It's more than the psychedelics, but it's still early.
Okay.
Well, would you agree with this statement that Aaron Rodgers is the most motivated he's been for years, with the possible exception of, let's say, 3 years ago when the Packers drafted Jordan Love? He really has something to prove here with the Jets.
Right. I do. And I think that he is definitely getting out and engaging. He's trying to right every wrong he did with Green Bay, engaging with the younger players. My thing is, I'm concerned about their line and that calf injury he had in OTAs. Other than that, they look great, Jack. I mean, the defense.
And they were a top 5 defense, correct?
They were, yes. And remember, they beat Buffalo last year.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe the receivers will get some shrooms and everybody be improving their game.
But the mushrooms, just eat it on the feet.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario, you know. No.
Yeah, you never. Venus Williams is back and she's winning, Robert. You know, we talk about Serena a lot, but Venus is a great player, always was a great player.
At the beginning, I thought the dad was just being nice by saying that Serena's going to be the better player. I actually thought Venus was going to be the better player, the taller of the two. 43 years old, won in Birmingham last week.
Yes.
That's the warm-up for Wimbledon. I think she can win a round in Wimbledon. Hey, if you do what you like to do, I'm okay with it. It's not like she's playing football or anything and may get injured. I mean, it's like golf, except it's a little quicker. It's good for the game. We don't really have any strong American women right now, in my opinion, because I haven't known of any. Do you know?
We got that young one,
Coco.
I think Coco Gauff, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. I don't think she's
from Delray Beach.
Yeah,
you know what the problem is when an athlete becomes 43 years old. I understand what you're saying, Robert. It's not like boxing or football where there's a wear and tear on the body when you're 43. If you could last that long, and play, it's about quick, explosive movements, and Jim could relate to that because of the position he played in football. You're just not as good as before. You're not, even if you don't get injured, you just don't have that extra little burst of speed, and that fraction of a second you're off, and that's the difference between for her going out early in the tournament or going far in the tournament.
Well, I think when you get that
league, I think I don't think anybody expects her to win Wimbledon again.
Well, I think when you get older, it's more about power than speed, right? So she would have to overpower her opponent more than out hustle her opponent, because I don't know if she could go that.
You don't do that. You don't do that in tennis. You don't know for power anyway. It's not
maybe.
Like a contact
sport. On your serve, Jack, and on your passing shots. I mean, that's where you can overpower them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but to win matches consistently, you can't overpower.
And I think what happens is your experience helps you with technique, because you know what things work and what don't at that age. Because as I got older, obviously your physical ability is going to deteriorate to a certain point, but your knowledge and your experience help you to improve your technique.
That's a great point too. So do you think, all three of you, do you think that the other tennis players, some of them would be intimidated just by playing Venus Williams?
Oh, I wouldn't think so, guys. I mean, she was beat by a 17-year-old a few weeks ago, a few tournaments ago. I'm sure they'll get her autograph after the game, though, after the match. Her and her sister.
These young players grew up watching the Williams sisters, so they're like in a little bit of awe. But keep in mind, when Venus was 14, 15 years old, she was beating older players herself. So now she's come full circle. What she did to them, they're now doing to her.
Mm-hmm. You can make it good, because if you last that long, there are going to be kids that obviously took pictures at you when they were younger, and now you're playing against them. That is true.
Right here up here in Connecticut, the Travelers Golf Tournament. We don't talk about golf on this show either, but it's to me, $20 million to win a golf game. Listen, have your kids playing golf. I mean, I know it takes skill. Jim plays golf a lot, and it's a very skillful game, but no injuries. You got to.
You get injuries.
Jim, you do. I'm talking about the real golf.
You do. That's telling a man.
You get back and shoulder injuries playing golf.
Oh yeah, I know. It's terrible. It's a terrible life.
Jim, when you use golf as your main game to keep in shape, in everyday life, you're going to get injured.
Only Jack would say that. I work. You don't get this body.
Oh, okay.
Robert, what do you think? I mean, if you had a son right now or a daughter right now, because of course the women's LPGA is big too. Would you try to get them in golf instead of some physical sport?
Yeah, I mean, golf is you really got to invest a lot of time in that. I mean, you look at Tiger Woods' dad and some of these other young players, Jordan Spieth, you can tell that mom and dad had taken them to tournament after tournament lesson after lesson after lesson. I mean, you have to it really for the other main sports too, but particularly these individual sports like that. The parents have to be invested, and you know the kids, they have to like what they do. You know, you've got a kid that's called Mini Gronk at an LSU. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could tell. And really, if the kid's not into it, they're going to rebel against you. So if I had a son or whatever, you know, I would have to really get a feel for it. If I'm living vicariously through him, or does he really want to do it? If he really wants to do it, then I have to invest your whole life in. You know, you've got parents moving in with them and stuff to get this kind of level of success. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and I was thinking about what you said. We were talking about that. Why there are not a lot of ex-NFL and Major League Baseball players playing on the tour in golf. Well, the reason is that a lot of those guys would have to practice 8. Even Tony Romo, everybody says how good he is.
Yeah,
he would practice 2 hours a day to prepare himself, and you still might not be good enough to make a tour.
Yeah,
we had that debate once.
Huh?
Well, yeah, we had that debate once about Michael Jordan, who really loves golf. If he could have been the next Tiger Woods or the Michael Jordan he loves golf so much. Which would he have actually picked? I have a feeling he may have actually picked the golf to be the greatest golfer of all time, as opposed to the greatest basketball player.
I think he actually enjoys
playing golf more. Yeah, and there's less wear and tear on the body.
True.
And Tiger Woods may have made, who made more money, Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan? I'm not sure.
Well, it was an interesting thing, and Robert knows this, is that they said when he sold the Charlotte Hornets, he made more money than he ever made on his Nike contract.
Yes, 250,000 to 250 million. I think it's almost 3 billion.
Yes.
That's times 10. I mean, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was hoping he would keep it, but oh well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you think
I disagreed with Jack. I think Michael Jordan was born to play basketball. I think, you know, that the competition, the fierce competition, you really can't show on a golf course. I mean, what are you going to do? Hit a guy with a club or something? I mean, you're not going to, you know, you're not going to be that competitive.
Well,
but anyway, Robert,
golf a sport.
Well, it's not a sport. Jim knows it's not a sport. It's a
golf
skill.
Is a sport now.
Oh, stop, Jim! It's
hard to play. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
it's easy to get frustrated in golf, man.
I'll say it's a sport when somebody tackles you while you're trying to make a putt. Then I'll
try to walk those courses. Think about that.
It's rough. It's rough.
And you got to walk in 4 days in a row. And
you stop and you stop and get a beer.
In the cart. What are you talking about?
I sit in the cart, but they don't. They walk the course.
And you stop and get a beer at the 9th hole, Jim.
Yeah,
come on.
right. Exactly.
Come on.
It's harder than you think.
If someone comes, they bring you your drink. They bring you your drink.
I was in the cart and it was still 98 degrees. I couldn't imagine that.
I know. It's tough. Robert, the running back group, never like this in the history of the NFL. You know, always unsigned running backs that, you know, camp's coming up July 16th and they're still not signed. What's going on? I mean, listen, I know the running back position is not what it used to be, but you still need a running game to set up the passing game around the clock and so on and so forth. So what's going on there?
Yeah. So a franchise tag running back would make, as of today, $10.1 million. You got Josh Jacobs, and then you've got obviously Saquon Barkley. Now, Tony Pollard did sign his franchise tag back in March, so he's going to be fine. You got Kareem Hunt still out there, guys. Saquon Barkley. This is a really good free agent market. Now, Dalvin Cook is my favorite that's available personally. I just hope these guys don't hold out. I'm sure they've got offers, but it's just not what they want right now. I think all those guys can play.
Rob, do you think?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jack.
No, Rob, do you think running backs have become devalued because we're living in the era of the running quarterback?
Well, I just think we're of the quarterback period, and running backs have been devalued compared to Jim's era. Even I don't know, 15 years ago, they've been more devalued. It's more about pass catching, and we've looked at recent history. Look at the guys who signed big contracts there, and it really hadn't played, except for maybe Derrick Henry down here. This $16 million number, that's not good. It's not good overall. It's a replaceable. Alvin Kamara was drafted in the third round, guys.
Yeah.
So you can get guys in the third round.
Do you think it's a less emphasis on the physicality of football, and that's why they de-emphasize the running back position? Because you don't see any smash mouth football because of how the rules have changed. It's more wide open because of the obviously the college being more spread offenses and everything.
It's more spread, more shotgun used, more running backs getting the ball without any momentum. You're seeing a lot of Big 12 looking offenses in the NFL. I never thought I'd see this even 6 years ago.
Yeah. And you don't see 3-point stances anymore. You ever notice that? As opposed to being down in the 3-point stance.
Well, there are
getting
exceptions.
less physical. Yeah.
There are exceptions. I mean, San Francisco is pounding the ball. Your ball.
Here in Tennessee.
Right? And you're right, but look at their running back too, McCaffrey.
Yeah.
McCaffrey he does well, but they do things with him other than run the ball.
Well, I would say Samuels is their main running, even though he's a receiver.
He's a receiver.
Yeah, he's the main running back.
And they did that in Patterson in Atlanta too. If you remember, Will Patterson.
I was reading an article about him. They don't know what to do with him since they signed their other running back out of Texas.
John Robinson.
Yeah. John,
No. The point I was trying to make before take the Jets, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall, their running back, becomes more important to the Jets because Aaron Rodgers, even though he can run, he isn't a running quarterback. Let's say conversely with Daniel Jones, if he were the Jet quarterback, Breece Hall would be a little less important as a running back because Daniel Jones is a running quarterback. That's the point I'm trying to make. Mm-hmm. So Saquon Barkley would have more value to the Jets than he actually would have to the Giants because Aaron Rodgers runs less than Daniel Jones does.
Saquon does so many things for him.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, he's a weapon. He catches the ball. He runs with the ball. One of the best blockers, blocking running backs.
Then why won't they give him the money?
I think they will. I think they will.
The money, huh?
They're gonna give him after the first game when they get blown out by the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, they got to the 17th, guys. So that's something to mark on your calendar, Mac, for Saquon.
Exactly.
It's to the 17th of July.
Yep.
To sign that long-term deal.
Okay. Well, they're
probably not a deal.
They've got a 3-year contract that they're negotiating right now. It's just they got to work out what they're going to do as far as guaranteed money and incentives and whatever else. It could go up to $15-16 million a year. So we'll see what happens with all that. Robert, you got any other big stories for us?
Well, guys, I've been paying attention to this Damian Lillard thing with he said he does not want to work with the young players. He's really surprised that Scoot Henderson was drafted with the Blazers. There's talks that maybe the Nets, he may want to go to the Nets or the Heat. He was playing one of the Only in Miami Will Smith song the other day. Somebody on one of his Instagram live videos. But Pat Riley saying, we think Tyler Hero's part of the core. Maybe he's just trying to sell Hero and Bam. That's a story. I mean, those Milwaukee, they need help at scoring position. Chris Middleton declined his $40 million option. I would maybe talk to Milwaukee. It's not the most desirable town, but I'd want to play with Giannis or play with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
I agree.
Good points.
Yeah.
So, Robert, if that's all you got, we'll let you go. Let you get get to your Sunday church meeting where you have to go after every Sunday by spending time with us, especially Jack. He can bring it down. So, Robert,
Man, God,
I've been praying for Aaron Rodgers to
I'm
stay upright.
impressed. I'm just right after this
test.
show.
yes. All right, Robert. You have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good
Take
show,
care,
guys.
Right.
All right, Robert Butler with Sports Skope. Of course, before that, Keith Engle TGI Sports. And we expect the Philly sports guy to come in and tell Jim he knows nothing about hockey again. And,
Hockey or baseball or basketball. Stick to football.
Yeah. You're a
Well,
one-trick pony, Jeff.
Yeah,
Jack. Yes, exactly. So, folks, we're going to take a quick promo break. We'll be back on the other side with the Philly sports guy. We still got a lot to get to. MLB news and games. We still got Dallas Cowboy news, Jet news, Giant news. We got our picks coming up and some boxing news. So stick with us. We've got a lot more to go. We'll be right back after these promos.
He was a Giant, and he was a Cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Glove. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
Ooh, shoot. You got me.
If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
You can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning. Welcome back to This Week in Sports with Mac, Jack, and Jim Jeffcoat. We just had Robert Butler and Keith Engle in. And, of course, I play that the commercial or promo for Jim and now for his girlfriend, too. So they know how I feel about the Cowboys. So, guys, we haven't got to the Major League Baseball news yet. The Cubs beat the Cards in a game in London where Cap homers twice. They ended up winning 4-1. So not only is Major League National Football League going to London, so is Major League Baseball, guys.
Let me say, Mac, it was less the game than the Fox Network debuting Derek Jeter with Big Papi David Ortiz and Alex Rodriguez, Ken Burkhardt, the anchor there. And something about that chemistry, they're really trying to focus a lot on Jeter. And Jeter's focusing a lot on Big Papi. You kind of want to see the dynamics of the relationship, the chemistry with Jeter and A-Rod. But keep in mind, for all the people who said Jeter and A-Rod feuded all those years, they really didn't feud, even though there was maybe a little underlying tension. but they played alongside one another. One was the shortstop, one was the third baseman for a lot of years. So there was that familiarity. But something is striking me a little off, that Jeter's always joking around with Big Papi, not so much with Alex Rodriguez, even though there's no apparent tension there. You kind of want to see the dynamic with A-Rod and Jeter. And A-Rod is always trying to get Jeter's approval. Like, no matter what, it's like he wants acceptance from Jeter, like he wants to get his friendship back after all those years, and he keeps striving for it over and over. And if I were A-Rod, I would just let go. I'd say, okay, Derek's an okay guy. We're never going to really be friends again, but we'll get along. We'll be fine. No hard feelings. I'm disappointed we never regained our friendship, and let it go at that. But Jeter seems to kind of, I don't want to say ignore A-Rod, but he's always focused on Big Papi there, at least yesterday. And I know there's the Yankee-Red Sox dynamic, but I want to see something go down with A-Rod and Jeter. But, you're not going to see it, I don't think.
Well, I imagine Big Papi is the fun guy out there, right? He's the one that you want to fool around with. A-Rod's a little dry, tries too hard, and Derek Jeter is I think Derek Jeter wants to go out there and have a good time and broadcast the game instead of being serious and trying to please A-Rod,
But I could tell you what's ironic. A-Rod came to the Yankees when it was Jeter's, I don't want to say Jeter's team, but Jeter was the main name there. And A-Rod was a shortstop, decided he was going to play third base. That was agreed upon with him in the Yankee organization. But Jeter felt a threat there with A-Rod coming over to his domain. Now Jeter, in a sense, is doing it to A-Rod, because A-Rod's been the regular at Fox for a while. So how is A-Rod going to feel? And is Jeter going to be sensitive to that, remembering how he felt when A-Rod came to the Yankees? And is he going to be a little deferential to A-Rod now that he's coming to Fox? I kind of like that, to observe that human element.
Yeah. Okay. Cincinnati Reds top prospect. I forgot to grab his name this morning. He's the tall guy they're comparing to Mickey Mantle. Dela Cruz. He's wowing him right now. He accomplishes something that not seen in a century after hitting for the cycle. He's the first player in the World Series era to record 20 hits, 5 stolen bases, and 3 home runs in his first 15 games. He's probably going to be a 4-tool player, already being compared to Mantle and Mays.
Well, Cincinnati had the 12-game winning streak snapped yesterday.
Right. But that wasn't his fault. I mean, he still hit a home run and stuff. So that was just a great game. That was a great. I think that went to extra innings, if I'm not mistaken, Jack.
I'm looking at it right now, and it was. Oh shoot! I'm on the wrong.
8-7. They lost Cincinnati.
They lost 8-7.
Yeah, great game. So anyway, this kid has a big buzz around him. He's still a very young player, so he's still got a long way to go being a rookie. But they're all excited about him in Cincinnati. In fact, the Major League Baseball is pretty excited about him. Center field, Jack Berger would love to participate in the home run derby. He wants his dad to pitch with him. I kind of remember that was the second baseman for the Yankees. Cano had his dad pitch to him too when he won the home run derby that one time.
Yeah, got a question for you. Do you think Major League Baseball is making a comeback? I do. It seems like it's more interest in it this year for whatever reason than it is in the last years.
I'll give you the reason. A lot of young stars, Jim.
I would agree.
A lot of young stars. That the older, it's time for the older guys to kind of hang it up and give it over to the young stars.
And I think another reason is there's less controversy right now in baseball than other sports, because you see the Ja Morant situation in basketball. You see issues in obviously professional football. You really don't hear a lot about baseball players off the field.
Yeah,
and maybe that's it. Maybe we're getting tired of seeing all the controversy in other sports or issues.
Good point.
Well, baseball's always been less political than, let's say, the NBA and the NFL. You know, the thing about baseball that makes it a little different, players dictate a little less to the team what they want. Like we were talking about Damian Lillard a little while ago. And people are saying, is Damian Lillard going to demand a trade? What's happened to authority? I'd love to see a player who's under contract. Ownership says you're not going anywhere. And if you don't like it, retire, sit out. And then if the player comes back and he's not giving 100%, I'd love a coach to just sit him down and not take any of it.
See, I disagree with that because Judge last year, when he was going through his contract situation, basically dictated to the Yankees. Because
Judge played hard every day.
Yeah, but these players are playing hard. I'm just saying, as a whole, there's some issues going on off the field, and that's all I'm saying.
Judge didn't dictate to the Yankees. He was a gentleman. He played it out. He played it out,
but he made them pay him the highest paid contract.
Oh, at the end, yes, but he became a free agent because he didn't get the deal he wanted. That's free enterprise. That's fine. The guy goes for free agency. I'm talking about a player under contract.
Ohtani's dictating to the Angels because he's going to have the option.
Ohtani's not but Ohtani is not dogging it at all. He's giving 100%.
These guys are not dogging it, Jack.
I'm talking about the play. I'll give you a case in point. James Harden, when he wanted to get traded from Houston, he wasn't happy. He shows up to training camp overweight, out of shape, and he's playing the regular season games not in top shape. That's what I mean. And if I'm the coach, I'd like to see a coach be an authority, sit the guy down. And you want to know something? You sit him on the bench, you're devaluing him going forward. And he's going to realize that, and he's going to say, I better get in shape. Let's take the case of Saquon Barkley now. Imagine Saquon Barkley doesn't get his contract. He shows up and he's not giving 100%. I think a coach should just bench him in a case like that.
He'll be ready to go.
He'll be ready because he's that type of person. But not all players are.
But that's in every sport.
Let me ask you this, Jack. So what? They sit Harden on the bench. So what? They still got to pay him if he's there.
They have to pay. Well, but the point is, he himself, Harden, is going to have to come around at some point because if he wants the big contract going forward, that's a Long Island Railroad in the back, guys.
There was an incident, and correct me if I'm wrong, last week with the Washington Generals and of baseball, where the two players got in the argument, correct? And they argued because one wasn't hustling enough. And they argued over that. I don't remember the player's name. You guys probably do. So
that happened. But that happened. There's always discontent on teams.
But here's the thing: it happens in every sport. So we can't say that baseball is immune to these things that are happening in other sports because it happens in every single.
I'm going to give you a case. Who's one of the greatest players of all time? If we ignore the steroid rumors and all that, Barry Bonds. When he was on the Pittsburgh Pirates, he was a star player before he went to the Giants. Yeah. He was talking down to another player who was way below him in stature. The manager, Jim Leland, went over to Bonds, not to the other player, got in Bonds' face and told him off. I'm not going to put up with any of your stuff. You better get in line. Really told Bonds off. And that impressed me. He told his star off because he didn't like the way he was acting. But managers, coaches, they give in to these star players. They're like reluctant.
Well, two quick points. First, Jim does look a lot like Barry Bonds. And
we went to college together.
And second, when you said Washington Generals, I immediately thought
about the Generals. No,
I thought about the Globetrotters, and I was going to look up the score, but they haven't been playing in a while. So anyway, yes. So anyway, guys, let's talk a little bit more about baseball here. San Jose Mayor makes a pitch for the MLB for an MLB team to the commissioner, and they're talking about the Oakland A's. which makes a little sense because they're in California. They're kind of close to Oakland, and maybe some Oakland fans would.
But are they committed? And San Jose actually has a really good minor league team.
Yes. Well, they're talking, Jim, $300 million for a ballpark.
Let me tell you, the hypocrisy bothers me in all these cases. All these cities are willing to take another team from another city, come to them, then make a bid on them. But if they lose their own team, they're crying about it. What an injustice done to them, that they're victims. I mean, I just don't like it. I'd like to see a city not accept another city's team and say, we just want an expansion team.
Yeah. And then my question is, and I'm just listening to what Max said, didn't they already make a agreement to move to Vegas? So can they get out of that agreement?
It looks like that's going to fall through, Jim. I think they know that they're not going to draw in Vegas. Who's going to go see Oakland A's? A losing
now
fan?
San Jose, because when I coached at San Jose State, that minor league team is it does well in San Jose.
What about a state like Nebraska, who's never had a major league baseball team? Could they draw somewhere like that? Would the public get excited there? Why not Montreal? Go back to Canada.
I don't know.
Maybe Montreal more than Nebraska.
Yeah.
Would Buffalo have a conflict with the Toronto Blue Jays because of the
They're
proximity?
pretty close, Jack. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes, and 20 minutes.
Maybe.
But the Orioles and Washington Nationals, it's a similar situation. They're even closer, I think.
The Nationals, Washington,
Yeah,
you're right. That is true.
Yes.
But it's a metropolitan area, too.
And the Yankees and Mets and the White Sox and Cubs. Proximity, I don't know whether it affects it.
And it's in football, too, with the Ravens and the obviously the Washington, whatever they are, Commanders.
I still call them the Redskins. The Mets did beat the Phillies last night 4-2 after the Phillies beat the Mets the night before. The Yankees beat Texas 1-0. What happened to your Texas Bats last night, Jim?
They went dead, but I'm a Yankees fan. I just like Texas because I live in Texas, but I'm a diehard Yankees fan. But I am impressed with what Texas is doing.
Yeah,
because they've scored the most runs this year. I mean,
Jim, if let's say Texas sports fans could have this option, you could have one of the two. You could have a double championship. You could have the Rangers and Mavericks winning championships that year, or neither of them win it and the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Which of the two would they pick?
I'm telling you, this is truly
Cowboys country.
They would pick they would take the one championship with the Cowboys over the double championship of the Mavs and the Rangers.
Yes.
But the Rangers have never won a World Series, though. Would not energize Texas.
Which is Washington got him close, and he lost those 2 World Series. But
and the Astros have won a couple World Series.
Yes, they have. I mean, but they're going to always take the Cowboys.
I was thinking in the Dallas area more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to say this, but even though the Cowboys haven't won since 97, they still are very popular. Let's be honest.
They are popular in Dallas.
Well, that's just being honest. I'm not saying it, but that's the realistic thing. Certain teams are like that. I mean, the Raiders are like that. If you think about it, they just have a following that
they haven't. How long has it been since?
I think it's kids that like to wear the Raider gear. It just looks good. The uniform, the hat, the whole thing. I think the design, adds to the.
And that's a possibility, but that's just the reality of it. Some teams are like that. They have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They always talk about how they travel. There are certain teams, and a lot of times it's grandparents, parents that grew up with these teams. It's just like Matt grew up with the Giants. You grew up with the Jets. Certain teams you follow.
Well, I'm a rarity that I'm a Yankee and Jet fan. Normally the combination is Yankees and Giants and Mets and Jets.
And the same like
reason,
that's true.
Is New York still a giant town because a lot of the old timers maybe passed on or whatever, and there's a lot more youth. Is it trending towards being a Jet town? Which team is more popular in New York, Giants or Jets?
Giants.
I would say the Giants, wouldn't you? Because the Giants have won more recent championships than the Jets.
Yeah, but the Jets have a rock star in Aaron Rodgers.
It doesn't matter.
No. People especially young people are into personalities.
I think
Aaron Rodgers was at the Taylor Swift concert singing the Jets win the Super Bowl.
Before the Jets take over New York, they got to win a couple playoff games.
And they got to win championships because the Giants have won championships and the Jets only won one. And that's just, I'm not saying it is a negative, but, growing up there like I did, that half your family might be Jets fans, half your family might be Giants. Same with Yankees and the Mets, and same with the Knicks and the Nets.
Yeah. I got to ask you this question, Jim. Alumni. I was thinking before the show, for some reason, of Matt Snell, the great Jet fullback, who was responsible for the Jets winning Super Bowl III. He should have been the game's MVP, not Joe Namath. 30 carries for 121 yards, 4 catches for 40 yards. He blocked tenaciously, played special teams, but of course it's Joe Willie, the glamour guy, guaranteeing the win. The Jets have no relationship with Matt Snell now. He's mad at the team because supposedly they wouldn't give him a reference for a job interview decades ago or whatever. How important is it to different teams to be close with the alumni? With Jerry Jones, is it very important to him to have a close alumni?
That's a good question. We talk about that, and I talk to players from different teams, and it's just like, you think we have a good alumni association where they call us legends and they send us information on any events that are going on. The best alumni association in the NFL are two: the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders. And you say, Las Vegas Raiders. And they are really into their alumni. I mean, they fly their alumni in to have big events. They pay for everything. The 49ers do that. They pay for the event and they pay for all those players to come. So they have the ones that have had success have it. The New York Giants, they have a very good alumni association. That's why those guys hang around, and that's why the loyalty to those teams. If you go to the event at the Cowboys, you'll see some of the Bob Lillys. You'll see the Leroy Jordans. You'll see the Drew Pearsons and things like that. And that's the thing. You see the history of the Cowboys around, but you see that with the Giants. You see that with the Steelers, and you see that with the Raiders.
The young players take note of that, the young stars.
For the most part, yes. There's a funny thing. Some do better than others. Everybody talks about Dak Prescott, but he does really do things. And he does take advantage of listening to Trey, listening to Roger Staubach.
Well, guys, I mean, we're supposed to kind of have a format. We go one thing, then we talk about baseball, and Jack has us talking about
they're audibles, Mac. You didn't play football on a high level to understand they're audibles.
Jack is talking
I'm
about
sorry, Mac. He asked me a question.
Snell in the 1969 Super Bowl that has nothing to do with baseball at all. So, Jack, please.
Let's go back to baseball.
Folks, I even sent them what we were going to talk about today have a format, and it doesn't matter. So let's get to the standings.
Well, man, we've got plenty of time to get it in. Have you hit a broadcast?
We don't have plenty of time, Jack. We don't have plenty of time.
That's the beauty of this show.
Have plenty of time to talk about Matt Snell. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about or not getting a job.
You know Jack is going to go. You gave him the big money, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Back to
I got a guarantee. You see what happens when you give someone a guaranteed contract.
And the Major League.
Go off on their own.
Well, that's going to be canceled pretty soon, Jack. Avoid that contract.
Okay, what do you want?
Major League Baseball standings, guys. Just the 500 teams. Right now, you got Tampa Bay in first at 53 and 27. So really, Tampa Bay hasn't come back to earth yet. They're still playing at a pretty high level. You have Baltimore at 48-29, still playing good with Hicks doing his thing over there in Baltimore. The Yankees at 42-35, still in third place. Boston at 40-38, so they're all over 500. All the teams.
Yes.
Central, all you got over there is the Twins at 39-39. The West Texas leading the West. Houston in second at 41-36.
Oh no. The Angels are in second at 42-36.
You are correct. After last night, they moved up, and California is raising a little hell out there, getting 25 runs last night. National League East, you have Atlanta at 44-27. You have Miami at 44-34, still playing impressive baseball. Philly at 39-37. I think the Mets are all done. I just think they're done for the year. They should just start selling off their players.
I hate this selling concept, Matt, because there's always next season. Who you're going to start selling? Can the players you sell help you next season?
It's a good question.
Just because you're out of it 1 year.
It's a good question. It's a real good question. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. They've got to get younger. I know that because right now their vets aren't really.
The Mets have two pieces in the bullpen, David Robinson and Adam Ottavino, who could help contenders. Contenders would love to have them. But what about next year? If you deal them off, now you've got to address your bullpen. The Mets aren't going to be in a rebuild mode, not for next year.
They might have to, Jack, because I don't see them next year playing any not much better than they're playing this year.
Yeah, they're saying they'll be better next year.
Yeah,
and maybe that's the media saying that.
I wouldn't give up on this year yet.
What do you got? 21 wins, Jack?
It's bad. The position in it's going to be tough to make the playoffs, but let's see if they can make a serious playoff run. Whether
35, Jim, 35 wins they got right now.
Yes, it's 35-41. They're 4-6 in the last 10 games.
Yeah, all right.
But look at a team like the San Diego Padres, Mac. They're under 500 now with all their big signings and all their big name players.
I mean, comparing them to Mets, there's really no comparison there, Jack. They're
only 3 games under 500.
They got a powerful team. The Mets don't have that much power and talent on their team. Not even close. I don't think.
Well, you like Francisco Lindor's 10-year contract, Mac. Remember that?
Yeah. I think it's a great contract. Okay, so in the West, Arizona's 46-37. It looks like you got San Francisco playing really good ball at 44-33.
9-1 in the last 10 games.
The Dodgers have fallen to third place. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
But they'd be in the playoffs if the season ended today, and they'd be a threat.
Correct.
And here's the thing about the West right now, in my opinion. This is the division that somebody's going to overtake the first place team, the Diamondbacks. Because you look because you look at San Francisco is hot. The Diamondbacks are 5-5 in the last 10 big games. The Dodgers are 6-4. I think that is the division that's the most competitive from that standpoint. Because you look at the other divisions. The Reds got hot, and they should win that division. The Braves, they should win their division, but the Diamondbacks are the ones. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I agree. Listen, if Arizona makes the playoffs, they had a hell of a year. I mean,
definitely.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Some teams.
The Dodgers going to win that division.
I did too.
You have a few teams, if they just like, as you said, Mac, get to the playoffs, the year's a success no matter what. Yeah. But you have a good number of teams, anything short of at least bare minimum of going to the World Series. The year's been disappointing. I mean, you look at the Dodgers, the Padres, the Braves, etc. They don't at least go to the World Series. The year's been a disappointment. The teams go in cycles. It's easy to forget the Giants got off to a terrible start this year, and look at what they're doing now. The Pittsburgh Pirates got off to a great start. We were asking, were the Pirates, were they for real? And now it's apparent they absolutely weren't. They slipped under 500.
And the Rangers, and you talk about the Rangers got off to a great start, and they sustained it. Nobody expected that. Nobody expected them to sustain it, even with losing DeGrom. They still sustained it.
Well, that's what I thought there was a lot made of the Rangers pitching staff and it's really been the hitters that have really come through for the Rangers this year.
Yeah,
so,
they lead the league in runs scored. Is the Rangers?
Jim said that 3 times so far in this show.
Yeah, well,
no, but that's
I'm kidding.
we're waiting.
I'm kidding with you, Jim.
It's still a football basket. Who's more popular, the Rangers or the Mavericks?
The Mavericks.
In Dallas.
Yeah,
I still think I think it's the Mavericks, but the Rangers are closing in. It's something
that's because of the owner, Cuban. It's because all for Cuban and his Cuban sandwiches.
Yeah, but you go to a baseball game, it's really relaxing to go to a baseball game. Now it's because they have that indoor stadium, and it's only going to be about 68 degrees in there, and you're not sitting out in the sun. It is really a great time to go to baseball in Texas. And the atmosphere, they do a great job with the atmosphere. And I've been to both games, Mavericks games, and I like that. But it's something about people love baseball down here. You see a lot of times when the MLB draft, a lot of these kids are from Texas.
Yeah, Texas produces a lot of athletes, football and baseball. Antonio Brown back in the news on the Tyreek Hill podcast. There's a couple of divas. Still has a beef with Brady. Tom didn't give him enough touches. Even with Brady defending Brown, Tampa Bay released him. That guy bent over backwards for Antonio Brown. Let him live in his place. And Antonio Brown is just a spiteful individual as far as I'm concerned. So.
I agree.
Yeah, you know what? Antonio Brown uses this argument, and even though it's hypothetically true, it really shouldn't apply. He'll say that, well, Tom Brady only reached out to me because I could help him on the football field, blah, blah, blah. But Antonio Brown only embraced Tom Brady because he could help him as well. But you develop friendships through common interests, whatever it is. When Antonio Brown took his shirt off and started doing jumping jacks, that was going way too far. But with that said, if Antonio Brown was 25 years old with a lot of years ahead of him, he'd probably be in the NFL now.
He probably
when
would.
you're at the end of the line, the way he was, you can't have a slip up like that. And, it's a shame.
Real quick question for both of you. If Antonio Brown, is he a Hall of Famer now?
No.
If you ignore all the drama off the field, I would think the answer would be yes.
I don't.
Over his whole career?
He was different. Terrell Owens was very successful for the majority of his career. I know he was Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
I don't think Antonio Brown's a Hall of Famer.
No, Terrell Owens he destroyed the locker room at times. He destroyed the knee a lot. Antonio Brown would be a little bit of a diva at times, but I don't think he was a major distraction to the team. He was a great citizen for Tampa Bay when they won the Super Bowl that year. I think during the Steelers' time frame, if it wasn't for the head coach and Ben Roethlisberger, that Antonio Brown would have been all over the place. But he wasn't, because of them. Whatever reason, he wasn't the distraction that Terrell Owens was. I agree with you. Terrell Owens wouldn't have been that distraction with Mike Tomlin as the head coach.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, ever since Antonio Brown got hit by Vontaze Burfict, everything went south.
Yeah, you've said that, and I agree. I remember that hit. That was a
brutal hit.
It's very true. Deion Sanders, we talked about a little earlier before the show, downplays the amputation of his toe. Also said he will never coach in the NFL. Jim, I want to get your opinion on this. Grown men not playing for paychecks. He's old school.
He is. And I'm going to tell you some things about Deion that I know personally.
That's what
first of all, he's great with kids. He is great with kids, and he is old school from the standpoint. When we would be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, people don't notice about Deion because he was a tremendous athlete. He'd be in there, and he'd come in and ask questions. At 5 o'clock, he was studying the opponent. He knew the opponent. He knew their tendencies, and he'd ask us questions because his big thing was he would tell the defensive coordinator, roll the coverage away from him. I got this. If it comes to my side, I'm going to take out their receiver. And he said, you give the other cornerback help. because I can handle the receiver on my side. And that was big. And he did that too. That was huge. I think he is old school in how he looks at the game and how he prepares his team for the game. I don't think it'll be very successful this year, but if they give him enough time, he will be.
Is the Deion Sanders image going to prevent him from getting a head coaching job? Because there's a reality of what Deion Sanders is, at least now, what you just pointed out. And I wouldn't have any reluctance hiring him if I was an owner, because I do believe he does have old school values. He's a student of the game, and he's been successful so far as a college coach. But because of the image he's had over the years, would owners be reluctant?
No. I think he doesn't want to coach in the NFL, and he's always said that because
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Jack, you have different kind of issues in the NFL as opposed to college. You still have Nick Saban is a point. Nick Saban was obviously one of the greatest college coaches ever, but he struggled in the NFL because it's a different type of issues you're dealing with, because you're dealing with millionaires. They make more money than you do. And you just be honest. And now with the salary cap era, there are some players that are untouchable. And that's the scary part, because they'll have control in this setup.
Well, Jim, let me ask you about his comment saying grown-ass men getting paid and not doing their job. I don't think that's a true statement.
Some of them don't. They get the big contract and they get the big heads. It's not everybody, and it's not the majority, but there is small minorities that when they get the big money, they play different. They play to protect their salaries.
Let me ask you guys this. Who's the greatest coach of all time, combining what he's done in college and in the NFL? Has there anyone been more successful than, let's say, Pete Carroll in doing both?
I would have to look it up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Pete Carroll's a good one.
He was successful in college and in the NFL. Yeah.
Well, there's only 3 coaches that
Jimmy Johnson, Barry
Switzer, and Pete Carroll all won the national championships and won Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, but Jimmy was loaded with all that talent there.
Well, he got that talent, Jack. We started off with Jimmy 1-15, and he built that team from scratch.
Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, let's do some Cowboy news. The Cowboys are relying on the health of Pollard, Gallup, and Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith, sorry.
Ronald Jones, don't forget him.
You must live near him when you're in your Florida home. Yeah. You probably live in the same neighborhood.
So Pollard was hurt last year, Jim. It looks like he might be susceptible to injury, and he wants an extension. Are you going to give him an extension?
I'm going to make him pay up that franchise tag. That's me. But talking about Cowboy news, the guys that you mentioned all have had injuries. I think the one that has the chance to be the most explosive is Gallup, and I'll tell you why. Because he's 2 years away from that knee injury, and Gallup was on his way to being a really good player.
Yes.
Bringing in Cooks is going to have a positive effect on the team, and I think the guy that you haven't talked about a lot is Jalen Tolbert. This offseason has been really good. There's a funny thing about, and you guys know about, obviously you follow sports all the time, but there's funny part that first year is kind of a filling out process for most players. There's some guys that are just better than everybody, like Thibodeau. He's better than everybody, but a lot of times it takes them about a year to get used to playing in pro football. And I said Thibodeau because I know, Jack, you have something against Thibodeau.
Well, Jack, I said him. I sent
I've
him
nothing against Thibodeau. I was correct on how he performed last year. He wasn't.
I sent him a messenger. I sent him a thing on Thibodeau that he's going to be a superstar. I don't know if Jack looked at it or not, but
when you talk, wait. When you talk about the giant defensive line, you talk first Dexter Lawrence, then you talk Leonard Williams. Thibodeau is at best, he's a distant third, and he's not even third, I don't think, but he's distant from those two guys.
But Jack, he's going to be all right.
Oh, he's going to be a good player. There's no doubt about it.
He's not going to be a bust.
He'll be an all-pro a couple times before it's all set.
He's not going to be a bust, Jack.
Tyler Huntley went to the Pro Bowl in this day and age. The backup quarterback on the Ravens.
I'm not talking about flag football. I'm talking about there was a real football.
Wait. I just want to get back to the Cowboys a second.
Okay,
you mentioned we're talking their offense. CD Lamb. I know he could be a number one receiver on the Cowboys, and he is on their depth chart probably right now, a little ahead of Brandon Cook. But I don't envision CD Lamb as being ever a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And I just don't envision him, being that.
I'll agree with Jack. I agree.
And here's
no way he's top 5.
Understand this. The game has changed. He is going to be in some of the things that they're doing now are similar to what the Green Bay Packers do. And that is perfect for him. Listen to me before you disagree. He has, if he was in 10, 15 years ago, I would say no, because of the physicality of the game. He has the opportunity to make plays because they're not as physical. Now, they cannot get away with the things they did 10, 15 years ago. So that's to the advantage of him. Having Cooks on there who can run, and he has some leadership qualities from what I'm hearing. Having Tolbert, having Gallup, they are not going to be able to do the things they did last year on CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has a lot of talent.
I'm not gonna do what you did to Byron and try and have you list the top wide receivers and argue about it. But I am going to tell you this: he's not a top 5. When you look at the Miami receivers,
name the top 5.
The Eagles receivers, the Eagles receivers, the Seattle.
Only one, AJ Brown. AJ Brown made a impact on the Eagles.
Seattle.
You heard Pags even said, without AJ Brown, it's not a great receiving core.
Seattle.
Devontae Smith, I would put ahead of CD Lamb. How do you like that?
Easily, Jim.
I would.
CD Lamb is not even a top 10. Okay. DeAndre Hopkins is better than CD Lamb. I'm gonna go.
No.
CD Lamb doesn't have good hands, Jim. He drops the ball a lot. Pags. Welcome, Pags. I was just saying Devontae Smith is better than CD Lamb. Pags.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Jim is on. Yeah.
Of course, he doesn't agree. He's gonna toe the company line. I understand.
No.
See, he says
you gotta respect Jim for being a company loyal.
But I'm
not gonna pick on Jim too much here, just a little bit. He says CeeDee Lamb's a top 5 receiver. Come on.
No, come on.
Yes.
Come on. That's company line. That's a company line.
Yeah.
Did Jerry give you a raise or something, Jim?
Yes.
That's okay. I understand.
Jim is butt licking because when he goes into that Cowboys week during the games, he wants to get along. He wants people patting him on the back. He doesn't want any hassle.
Oh my God! All right,
the Jets are not even in this conversation. They don't have a top 20 receiver.
That's true.
Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson will be top 10
year, Jack. They played 1 year. Calm down. Let's get to Philadelphia stuff with Pags here quick before we get to boxing, and then we still got to talk about our NFC West. So let's try and get through this, Jack, without talking about people looking for jobs, former NFL.
Butt licking.
Yeah. The Phillies beat the Mets 2-0, then they lose 4-2. Pags. Of course, I see you out there at the games, and you're kind of fooling around with the Mets fans, and it looks like the Mets fans enjoy you being there. It's not like other teams that I see you go and see. So anyway, the Mets come back and win 4-2 after the 2-0 win by the Phillies.
Yeah, the Phillies they're going to have to send down Marte, or you're just not going to be able to use him. Out of the last 9 runs, he's let up 7 of them.
Okay. All right.
And that's the problem.
Pags,
right
I never
now.
heard of these. I never heard of these guys. Clearwater expansion. They proposed a $250 million ballpark that would be also, a $250 million shopping center around a $380 million stadium with a training complex. Have you heard anything about that? With Clearwater?
No, but it doesn't. That's so the Phillies own a lot of Clearwater, interestingly enough. And when I went down to the facility, there was still a tremendous amount of space that wasn't utilized. Like it was like woods and such like that. So it wouldn't surprise me that they would start to do that, especially now because right now, like even with Philly sports trips, they have been booking lots of people to go down to spring training early. Like there's already like somewhere close to like 120 people scheduled to go to spring training next year. And the Phillies, because they sell out all the spring training games and such, I think they are looking to maybe expand on what they have available for their fans. And everything right now, it's you go to that ballpark and then you have to go somewhere else. So, but they have all that space to be able to create a hotel, create a shopping center, to make it a bigger ballpark. And they have a team that's down there all the time playing. So it's not a surprise.
All right. Tobias Harris, his father and agent, believes that his son/client deserves a bigger role, even though he came up short in some pivotal games last year. Pags, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. This is it now. You have to take the source. And as much as it's, if it's an agent saying that about his clients, you could tell he's like, okay, I'd like for him to get more involved. This is a father talking about his son.
Yeah.
And it's, I can imagine he wants him to have a bigger role, that he does, he was great here before Harden got here, or he was really good before Harden got here. And now that Harden's here, I have a diminished role. And I think if you gave him a bigger role, that we would do better. Sometimes you have to understand what's happening on the floor. And Tobias started to lose traction when Harden got on the floor, and just couldn't figure out how to get himself involved. Yeah. That's where I feel like with Harden there, you have to become more of a defensive power, and that defensive side gives you more on the offensive side.
Reportedly, Tobias Harris has a lot of other interests, and there's been a little talk, at least what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that basketball might not be the ultimate thing for him professionally.
I didn't realize that's what you were talking about. I thought that there has been some talk about interest in Tobias Harris, like 6 or 7 different teams. I don't know. I don't know about him in a public, in a public way beyond basketball. That's, I don't really pay attention to stuff like that, because unless it's coming directly from him saying, hey, I'd like to write a book or start a rap, song, or be a rap artist, or become a businessman in other ways, everything's hearsay to me.
Well, we're going to get the boxing news. I'm sorry, Pags, we're not covering as much of the Philly news that I like to, but Jack, for some reason, just, he wanted to talk about 69 Jets, and it became a big discussion.
Matt Snell.
And the format was just blown up.
I remember these guys. I don't forget these guys.
We were too young.
Listen, I'd like to.
I wasn't born.
I'd like to see Pags talk more about the 1960 Philadelphia Eagles, who won the NFL championship.
I wasn't even born.
Jack, I listen. Pags wasn't born. I wasn't even born, so it's old news. Let's get to boxing, Jack. That I know you know a lot more than we do about. Adams versus Williams. and Bettling versus Quigley. Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the Adames fight against Williams yesterday. That was on Showtime because I was actually watching the fight from Madison Square Garden, Edgar Berlanga against Jason Quigley.
Right.
Edgar Belanga's been a little bit of a lightning rod in this sense. Imagine this, the first 16 fights of his professional career, he knocked out opponents in the first round in all 16.
Wow.
I saw a number of them at ringside. I'm familiar with Edgar Berlanga. He wasn't that good. He's not that good. I mean, he's a good, solid fighter, but he's not a serious threat to beat a Canelo Alvarez, for example, yet because he's charismatic, Puerto Rican, and the Puerto Rican fans are major boxing fans, and had that big knockout streak of 16 consecutive first-round knockouts to start his career. People like my co-host Frank Laterza were getting excited. They said he could be a star. Yeah, Jake Paul's a star too, and he's not much of a fighter. I mean, you can build up a personality, but what's a real star and a manufactured star? Edgar Berlanga is a manufactured star. After the 16 first-round knockouts, his next 4 fights, he won, but they all went the distance because they gently stepped up in competition. Not elite fighters, not rated fighters, but they stepped up a bit, okay? And now he was 20-0, and he's going into a fight against an Irishman, Jason Quigley. Now, Jason Quigley's from Ireland. Think of Jason Quigley like this, a first-round draft choice in football who winds up playing special teams for his career because he didn't pan out in his position. And the big talk was Edgar Berlanga's fighting in his hometown in New York. He's got to knock Jason Quigley out, make a statement. He knocks him down 4 times, but it goes to full 12 rounds. And I don't want to hear after the fight how good it did Berlanga getting in the work and all that. He didn't get the stoppage. He's a good, solid fighter, Edgar Berlanga. He's not an elite fighter. When we talk about elite fighters, we're talking about the world-class fighters. Berlanga's not close to that. He's just an ordinary good fighter, nothing more, nothing less. But it had to be a disappointment to, Matchroom Boxing. They were talking about him and Canelo and this and that. And now they kind of have to lessen the goals. And a guy like Edgar Berlanga, it's a job to keep him winning. That's the thing about it. You have to find the right opponents to make him look good because he doesn't have overpowering talent to do it on his own. There was a fight on the undercard yesterday, heavyweight. Joe Cusimano. He basically ended the career of Adam Konaki, Polish fighter with a lot of heart from New York. He stopped him in the 8th round. What bothered me in that fight was in the 7th round, this was reported, from ringside, that his manager, Keith Connolly, was asking Konaki's family, should he throw in the towel? Should he stop the fight? Now, I have no doubts that the manager, Connolly, cares about Konaki. I'm not questioning that in the slightest, and I'm not questioning his intentions, which I know are honorable. But don't ask the fighter's family. Could you imagine that, Jim, a coach asking a player's family in the stands whether they should pull the player out of the game because he's hurt or not? It's crazy to do that. And the corner is negotiating with Konaki whether they should stop the fight. The fighter's never going to say, pull me out of the fight. I don't want to fight anymore because it's ingrained in them to keep going. Sure. But miraculously, while that's going on, Konaki starts rallying in the 7th round, like out of a Rocky movie. But of course, by the next round, that was his last gasp. He starts getting battered, and the referee's too slow to step in. And just one word about ringside physicians. They have the power to stop fights between rounds. The ringside physicians are getting a pass. On the whole, they have been doing a lousy job protecting the fighters. And this is coming from someone who served on the board of directors of the American Association of Professional Ringside Physicians for a decade, okay? And I like those guys personally, the ringside physicians. They work for low pay. And they do it for love, love of the sport. They want to be involved. Some of them like the limelight, of course, but they should be doing a better job.
Hey, Jack, I had a question for you, and this is boxing related. What was the deal with John Gotti III and Floyd Mayweather? I know it was an exhibition.
I don't know. I didn't see the whole fight with that, and I don't know what went down. Some people wanted the impression that it was all staged. I don't believe it was at all. And who knows what went down? I stopped following Mayweather's, exhibitions per se. So I don't know the reality of what happened then.
Has Gotti been in the ring?
Yeah, he's had like 6 fights, was 5-1, credible fighter. Decent fighter. It wasn't, but who knows what went on. It was labeled an exhibition. So even if Gotti knocked him out, Mayweather's unbeaten record would be protected.
Yes.
Per se. And apparently there were hard feelings afterwards. I gotta believe that's real.
Yeah. I was just curious because I didn't.
Okay, guys, let's get to the NFC West real quick with your picks. We'll start with Jim. Who do you got first through 1 through 4? Jim?
San Francisco, Seattle. Who else is over there? I know the Cardinals are going to be last, and the Rams. Rams will be third. San Francisco, Seattle, Rams, and Cardinals.
Okay.
I'm going to go right now. This could change. Okay, this is just tentative. I'm going to go with Seattle to win the division. The way they drafted last year, this year, and the Niners obviously second. Those two teams, put them in one group. The Rams seem to be rebuilding, and Arizona just looks awful. So So that would be, I'd go with, the Rams third and Arizona fourth.
Yeah, I have to kind of go the same. I got to go the same way as Jeff does. You know what I mean? I think that the 49ers defense is going to be too strong and is going to win like 9 or 10 games. Their offense will win like 1 or 2 games, and that'll give them enough to win that division. I don't think Seattle's strong enough to win the division, and I think that they're only going to win like 9 games, at most. Then you have, then I guess I would say the Rams, which are probably like a 6 or 7 game winner, and then Atlanta, and then Arizona, which is like a 3 game winner.
How much, Mac? I don't mean to cut you off. How much is veteran leadership because Seattle's getting Bobby Wagner back? How important is that going to be?
I don't think Bobby Wagner makes that much of a difference.
Good to have a guy with experience.
Not much of a difference.
Really?
He's too old now.
Yeah. I think.
He's a good player. He's a good player, and he's going back home. But
go ahead, Matt.
I think it means a lot in the locker room, but that's just my opinion. Let's go with San Francisco first. Purdy will be starting, and they do have the second best defense in the league. They got the best tight end in the league, and of course they got they got Samuels. I think they go 12-4. Seattle being second at 10-6. They're getting closer. Good strong D, good running game, and probably the best 2 wide receivers in that division. The Rams, Stafford's back, good defense. They definitely need another receiver, tight end to make them better than that. And of course, like everybody else, I've got the Cards in last place. Murray has issues. The running game's okay. I don't know. They're just a bad team. So that's basically we all got the same, except Jack going out there and picking Seattle to finish first, which maybe next year they will be. I don't know. I think they're.
Well, Seattle made the playoffs last year, Max. So it wouldn't be like a big leap if they finish first, and they really drafted well. They really have. Who has a better quarterback situation, the Niners or Seattle with Geno Smith?
I would go with Geno, I guess. I guess he would be a better fit, better quarterback than Purdy right at this time. I think Stafford's
by a nose, like barely. Like I used the horse racing, but like barely by a nose.
Would you say,
to be honest, I think the best quarterback there still in that division is Stafford.
I was just going to say that.
But can Stafford get motivated after winning the Super Bowl? He's gonna. have a feeling like he was back at Detroit this year.
I feel like this whole team, threw in the towel. You know what I mean? It was like everybody wanted to retire after they won the Super
That's
Bowl.
true. Yeah,
You know what I
they
mean? I
should.
just
Even
feel
the
like
head
that.
coach- Even
Yeah.
the head coach wanted
Yeah.
to retire.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't know if they can get that mojo back.
There's going to be a lot of quarterback controversy going on in the NFC West. Like with Matthew Stafford, is this his last year? And then you look at Seattle. If Geno Smith stumbles a little, they might give him the quick hook for Drew Lock, their backup, who they seem to like a lot, who they want to come back. There's the Niners situation with their 3 quarterbacks, but I think the biggest lightning rod is Kyler Murray. If they have a terrible year and he plays poorly, I don't think he comes back next year unless they can't get rid of him. They're locked into so much money, such a commitment they made to him. And considering the level of immaturity he showed, I think that was a mistake to make that type of financial commitment to him.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And to take out that and to take off that clause. You know what I mean? They should have left it on there. It should have been almost a matter of principle by leaving it on there, and they didn't. Do you think like
Jack,
this
one
year, at
question-
the end of this year, is going to be a quarterback carousel again?
Yes. Because they make so much money
Well,
that they can't afford to invest in them unless they're helping them be successful.
Well, one of Jim's favorites is
Well, I
going
think
to be
with the
in
lesser
open
teams, there
market,
will be the.
Kirk Cousins.
Well, I think
I thought
I'll
you
be
were gonna say
honest.
Dak Prescott. One more.
There's a chance, I think, that at the end of this year, depending on how Denver does this year, look for because I don't think San Francisco is going to find their quarterback this year. I think it's still going to be a mess. And I would look to see if San Francisco gets the balls and actually trades for Russell Wilson.
They're pretty aggressive.
Russell Wilson?
I think that if Denver has a subpar year, I think that they would trade for Russell Wilson. That
Well,
they
why
think
would
that
they
they'd have
want
a
him?
better offense around him to be able to utilize him better.
If they have a subpar year, it's going to be because of Russell Wilson in large part. So why would they want him?
I just an opinion. Look at this is a crystal ball look. You know what I mean? So
Hey, Jack. There you go, Jack. One more question to you about boxing. I've been wanting to ask you this. Crawford and Spence have a 2-fight setup, right? If it would be better if Spencer won the first fight to build the climatic to the next fight, or Crawford. If Crawford wins the first fight, do you think there'll be as much interest?
I haven't seen the language. It's been reported that there's a rematch clause if it goes to distance. If it ends in a knockout, there's no rematch clause. But yeah, I mean, if it goes a fight apiece, if the first fight is a thrilling fight, people are going to welcome a rematch. If one fighter dominates and wins a one-sided decision, the rematch isn't going to have, that much luster to it.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm excited about this fight. This fight should have happened earlier.
Well, I think it took a lot longer to make than it should have. Errol Spence said something that was very hypocritical, and he was given a lot of credit for it. He has 3 belts. They're 4 major organizations, and he said, what are they doing with the money they collect? Each sanctioning body gets 3% of the fighter's purse, meaning Errol Spence, because 4 belts on the line, has to pay 12% of his purse, as does Terrence Crawford in this fight, to the sanctioning bodies. But meanwhile, Errol Spence, for years, ducked a Crawford fight by saying, well, I have to get most of the money because I have 3 belts and you have 1. So he was using those belts as a bargaining chip to avoid Crawford and help himself. And now he's saying, where's the money going to? What are they using it for? Well, he was using it for his own purposes, Errol Spence.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think Mac is froze.
Yeah, we've been freezing throughout
Very
the show.
good.
Max a little
Folks,
stunned,
thanks today.
you know?
Thanks for joining us today on the Sun.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on This Week in Sports. Glad to have you. Thanks for coming in. Of course, Keith and Robert both were in. Jack is back. J&B, Glove Fist. Jack is on Monday night. J&B is with Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. Both great shows. Tune in. Glove Fist at 7 on Monday. And J&B Talking Shop is on 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Folks, have a great Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday. It's nice up here. I don't know what it is like down there or up wherever you are, but have some sun and grab a day at the beach if you can. We'll see you soon on
Enjoy your Sunday.
Mac and Jack Sports.
Yeah.